Hello everybody and welcome back to this week's video where I go over the episode of Mobile Suit Gundam GQuuuuuuX, and we go ahead and talk about what happened in the story. So I'm just going to get right into it. Right out of the gate, we actually learn that the very mysteriously named Yomagn'tho is the solar ray system from earlier Gundam installments, except this one is apparently designed for non-military use for correcting Earth's environment after all the damage caused by the one-year war. Giren and Kycillia are meeting for the first time since Zegwen's funeral, and Giren brought a bunch of big Zams with him, so I mean that that definitely illustrates that he doesn't trust her at all. With only one day until the solar ray is completely unveiled, we overhear on the radio that the Federation government is not attending, so it's all Zeon reps and people from independent sides like Side 6. Machu has returned to the Sodan with Shalia Bull after last episode's events, and Shalia Bull talks to Machu about the Rose of Giren and how new types can see another world beyond the Zek Nova. We actually get to see Shalia Bull talk about his time at Jupiter, which we always heard about in the original show but never really got to see, and then we get an actual flashback, and he says his time there was a waste. He led a fleet of Helium-3 collecting ships to bring the resource back to Zeon, however they lost control of their ship systems due to immense solar radiation. I have to say, I really like the style they use to show this flashback. It's a black and white sketch style, and obviously there's not a lot of movement to the animation, but wow, man, it looks really good. In fact, it reminds me a lot of how the Gundam The Origin manga looks. After the accident, Shalia Bull realizes that they can't get back to Zeon, and he's ready to take his own life. But that moment ignited a spark of freedom in him, as he no longer had to live up to anyone's expectations, not even his own. The ship's autopilot very conveniently engaged just as he was about to pull the trigger, but when he arrived home to find half of humanity dead, he just felt empty and didn't believe in anything anymore. Char was drawn to him, and Shalia tells Machu that he believes that Char was an empty person, just like him. He gives Machu the gun that he was going to use to commit suicide, which is problematic. Thanks, Uncle Shalia. We get a little scene of Xavier and Nan, and they're getting ready to start a battle on Kycillia's orders, which is a little bit of foreshadowing since they're just supposed to be attending a conference, and Xavier unfortunately gets shot down by Nan after he asks for a little of her home-cooked food, and she's like, I only give my food to people I like. And that just makes me sad for him. When we actually go to see the little meeting, I thought that Admiral Chapman here was Rambaral for a second, and I got really excited. And that kind of begged the question, like, are we gonna see Rambaral? I'm really surprised that they haven't shown him off at all. Maybe they did at some point, I just, like, don't remember it at all, but yeah, he's a very fan favorite character, so I'm surprised we haven't seen any of him. Giren and Kycillia finally sit down for a meeting, and wow, Giren looks really great in this art style. The show did a pretty good job letting the older characters retain their 70s designs and not giving them big googly eyes with tricolor irises. That would just look too weird for Giren. During the meeting about the Yomagn'tho, Kycillia brings up the fact that she doesn't know who leaked her location to the Federation terrorists who attacked her with a Psychomu weapon. Giren brings up natural selection, because of course he does, saying that if new types really exist, then they should defeat the human race and reign supreme. And it seems like here Giren doesn't really believe in new types, which I find kind of fascinating. I guess he's stuck in his old ways, but it seems pretty obvious that there's a lot of evidence that new types exist. I do remember back in original Gundam there was a lot of like, ooh, do new types exist or don't they? At this point, 5 years after the end of the one-year war, I think there's plenty of evidence, but I guess that's just him being stubborn. Kycillia mentions the big elephant in the room, the fact that Giren killed his own father to stay on top, and just as you think that her neck might get wrung by this secretary, everyone else in the room dies from poison. I did not expect Giren to die right here, and it's not ambiguous at all. They show his bloodshot eyes and his foaming mouth, but Kycillia came here with a mission, so you gotta respect that. Also, at first I was kind of wondering how the hell she poisoned him, because Giren is so paranoid that they haven't met since their father's funeral, and he wouldn't have eaten any of the food there or anything like that if he's that paranoid. But then they actually show that Kycillia had a little rebreather on under her mask, and so did all of her other henchmen, and apparently the poison was airborne, so that's a pretty potent poison. Kycillia then gives the order to blockade the Yomagn'tho and destroy Giren's defense force. Nan and Xavier, plus a bunch of other Zeon pilots, attack and destroy the squad of Big Zams. I know these Big Zams were taken by surprise, but they went down pretty easy. I guess that shows the supremacy of units equipped with a Psychomu, although one Big Zam did use that like big 360 laser attack that gave me PTSD flashbacks to Gundam Breaker 4. After those Big Zam are completely wiped out, Nan opens an envelope given to her by Kycillia. We get to see a little bit of their relationship, and I think it's interesting that Kycillia is treating Nan in a similar way that Char treated Lala. Obviously, there was a romantic or sexual component to Lala and Char, and that doesn't seem to be the case here. But we do see Kycillia attempting to be very overly nice towards Nan and giving her personal attention, which she knows that Nan has never had. So manipulating a poor new type orphan girl into being a professional killer and ace pilot isn't that far off the mark. I just thought it was an interesting parallel between the two. The envelope contains codes that Nan needs to put into the machine. The Sodon sees that the Zeon civil war has begun, and Shalia sends out Machu, telling her that the Yomagn'tho uses the Rose of Giren as a power source. So if she does what she wants to do anyway and saves the girl inside, she can stop Kycillia from using it. Meanwhile, Nan makes it inside the solar ray system, and we see Dr. Leo Leone, and I can't remember, he's probably from the first Gundam or Zeta. Someone down in the comments will let everybody know, but I just had to point out that he's like, what? Why is this mobile suit here? God damn it, Kycillia, this is why you don't give power to Whammon. But right after he says that, he gets mecha bitch slapped across the entire facility through a wall. The G-Fred has also been built to just interface with the Yomagn'tho, which Nan does, and then she puts in the coordinates that Kycillia gave her. The solar ray targets Q with a huge Zek Nova. That's right, it's not just harnessing the power of the sun like the old solar ray. This is actually using the unconscious Lala in the center to like fire just basically Kira new type energy. It completely destroys the fortress and is also apparently able to teleport it from one side of the moon to the other before it explodes. It was kind of confusing what actually happened to them, but if you go back and watch it, according to what the characters are saying, it looks like they're able to sort of like phase through space, which is a pretty interesting concept. And like, Nan doesn't really seem all that fazed by the fact that she just blew up an entire fortress full of probably like, what, tens of thousands of people? Thousands of people at least, plus their entire fleet. I would say tens of thousands for all of those ships and Q together is fair. And she's just like, well, if I get to see Shuji, if I get to see that smelly hobo boy beyond this Zek Nova, it'll all be worth it. So, no worries, guys. No matter how down bad you are, you will never kill 35,000 people to see a smelly hobo twink, I hope. Machu is surrounded by Xavier and his squad, but they're interrupted by the arrival of Shalia Bull and his Kikarogo, who, really, he's just the GOAT of this series. I'm sorry, guys, but Bull is the real main character, and that's all there is to it. He probably could have been the main character, but we needed to have the teen drama. I was kind of hoping for like a confrontation where Machu was actually forced to use the Gundam to like kill somebody and then have to deal with the fallout of that, but I guess Shalia Bull not wanting to put her in that situation also kind of makes sense, because he says that he's sick of new types being used to kill, so him kind of coming and pulling her ass out of the fire against Xavier and his squad makes sense. Although, you know, he did just gift her a gun, so there's that. Also, I forgot to mention it, but earlier in the flashback with Giren and Cilia, Kycillia also had like a gun with the Zeon symbol on it that she said was gifted to her by her father when she joined the military. And I would bet money that at some point Machu and Giren are going to be pointing those two guns at each other before the end of this series. Machu enters the facility and sees the G-Fred, though she doesn't know it's Giren inside yet. I gotta say, I don't really feel all that sorry for Giren anymore, mostly because I just really don't care about her affection for Shuji, but she's apparently willing to kill a lot of people for it. I guess we'll see next episode if she knew that was what was going to happen when she input the codes and just didn't care, but she doesn't seem all that fazed by it right now. Although she does kind of throw up after having all of that death around her as a new type. We know that when new types are in situations where a lot of people die around them, they sometimes just like get completely brain broken, so that's not exactly surprising. And that was pretty much it for this week's episode of GQuuuuuuX. Everything is kind of coming to a head now. We're flying right into the Zeon Civil War, although it's kind of more like the Zeon Civil Scuffle, because it can't last more than a few battles, more than maybe even one, because all of the characters are here right now, and they've just killed half of them, so, well, they've killed Giren, anyway. But I'm interested to see how it all wraps up. It's wrapping up so fast. I guess I don't think that 12 episodes was a good call for this show with how much they tried to do, and it just feels like a missed opportunity to fly so fast into this actual interesting storyline with all the politics when we spent the first half of the show getting to know characters that aren't even spending time together anymore. I'm open to the fact that the finale could make this a 8 or 9 out of 10 show for me, but right now I think it's pretty middle of the road. And I think the only people who are going to be like super ecstatic about it are people who just wanted UC fan service, which is fine. I just kind of wish that the new big Gundam show was a new thing with a bunch of cool new concepts and not really leaning on the UC as a crutch as much as this show does. I do think it's a fair criticism now to say that this show uses the UC as a crutch, because if I'm thinking on it and all these characters were new characters and we didn't have the UC, like, AU timeline stuff going on, the show wouldn't be as interesting, which is unfortunate. So I guess we'll see how this all wraps up in the next couple of weeks. I will obviously be here doing this, and you'll get my full thoughts on it. But other than that, what's going on here? Why isn't the Brain Powered video out yet? Well, it's mostly because Brain Powered is a really sort of confusing and ethereal show, and the script is really long, and I have a lot to say about it, and I'm not rushing through it. Which I think is fair whenever I do a Tomino show, to actually get into the nuts and bolts of it. And Brain Powered is weird, let me tell you that. I can't wait to actually let you guys see that video. So I think I might even do a video before the Brain Powered video comes out, because I watched a video. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Happy Console Gamer, very popular channel, but he did a video recently where he did his top 10 out of 10 anime, and he mentioned an anime on there I'd never even heard of, but it sounds awesome, and that was Black Magic M66. So it's an OVA that's only like 50 minutes in total, and it looks really, really cool. So I might throw together a video on that comes out before the Brain Powered video, quite honestly, because I want to work on the Brain Powered video a little bit more and just really make sure my thoughts on it are complete, because it's hard for me to not watch a single episode of that show and then just sit there like, wow, that was a lot of stuff that happened, and I have to think about it now. So anyway, I'm rambling about this now, but thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys very soon. Have a good day.